Okay, everyone, welcome to the presentation today. We're going to be talking about personal conveyance, yard moves, unassigned driving, and adverse driving conditions. This is going to be presented by Ezlogz, by myself. My name is Donna, and also CJ is on the line with us as well.
Hi, guys.
So let's talk about the agenda. We're going to go over the definition of personal conveyance, how you should use it, the proper and improper ways, activating and using it in your Ezlogz app. We're going to talk about yard moves and when to use them, and also how to activate and use that in Ezlogz. And then unassigned driving we're going to talk about, and also adverse driving conditions. So moving on, what is personal conveyance? Personal conveyance is the movement of a commercial motor vehicle for personal use while off duty. The driver may record time operating the commercial motor vehicle for personal conveyance as off duty only, and the driver needs to be relieved from all type of work and responsibility. So the commercial motor vehicle may be used for personal conveyance even if it's laden, since the load is not being transported for the commercial benefit of the motor carrier. So you can have a load, but it cannot be getting you closer to a drop-off or a pickup or anything like that. It also does not reduce the driver's or motor carrier's responsibility to operate a commercial motor vehicle safely, meaning you cannot be ill or fatigued when you go into personal conveyance mode. Okay, proper use of personal conveyance. So this is the time spent traveling to a nearby safe location to obtain required rest after loading or unloading. You cannot skip past a truck stop that's available to go to another one that's closer to your drop-off. So the time spent traveling from a driver's en route lodging, such as the motel or truck stop, to a restaurant or entertainment facility. So you can do your drive time to your lodging, the truck stop or the motel, and then go into personal conveyance to go to your restaurant or whatever you want to be doing off duty. And you can also use it to commute between the driver's terminal to the residence or work sites to the residence, as long as the intent is not to get closer to a stop or the carrier's motives. So let's talk about improper use of personal conveyance. So the movement of the commercial motor vehicle in order to enhance the operational readiness of a motor carrier, so bypassing the resting locations in order to get closer to the next one, like I stated previously, this would be improper. And the time spent transporting a commercial motor vehicle to a facility to have maintenance performed, this cannot be used for personal conveyance. Okay, so here's a sample question. This is from a driver, and he says, I'm unloaded and I turned in my paperwork at the terminal. I'm not on another load and I'm off duty, but I live 3.5 hours away. So can I go on personal conveyance with the truck and trailer to go home? So here's the answer. It's going to be yes and no. If you can clearly explain this to the roadside officer, because it's going to be really up to him, you should be fine, because this is the intent is using personal conveyance correctly. You cannot further your load, which is what he's doing, because his trailer is empty. The sticky point to this is if your next load is at your home or near it, you're going to look like you're going there for the next load. So it's how the officer interprets this point. Further explanation of this one, in this scenario, the driver is actually going to go home and do a 34-hour restart, and the next load is actually 4 hours in another direction. So this would be a perfect use of personal conveyance. Using personal conveyance in Ezlogz is very simple. So this is directly on the app. On mine, it's showing the first one shows that it's on duty. The second one shows where I've pressed the off button, and the second arrow there shows enable personal conveyance. It's just underneath. Now, this will be available, that option down there will be available as long as the safety or admin has made it available for the driver. And we'll show you that later on too.
So basically, if you guys are clicking off duty, then the screen will come up, enable personal conveyance mode. Where that circle is, you need to click on that circle, and then a check mark will appear, and then you can save it.
Right, so I had to scroll down there. In the third one at the top, it's also that enable personal mode or enable personal conveyance, and that blue check mark is there.
Yep, yep. And also another thing I would note is basically, and once you will be basically the difference you will see and you will understand that you're in personal conveyance mode is that when when you will go to the grid line will be dotted instead of a flat through line.
That's a really good call out. Perfect. Okay, and it'll stay in personal conveyance mode until you change your duty status.
Yep.
Okay, so this is one the admin would need to see. So this is on the safety login. So you'll see I've actually blocked out some email addresses and last names and things like that. But this is what they see. They'll see the drivers. You'll click on this driver's name, and I've have the arrow down here where it says driver settings. And here's what they see: the driver settings, all these different settings, yard mode and conveyance. Conveyance mode is right there with the arrow, and they're both selected on at this time. Okay, so now let's move on and talk about yard moves and what you need to know. So the yard move is a manual driver event used to track in-yard driving time. The time is recorded against the driver's on-duty clock, so you need to be on duty to do a yard move, but it doesn't go against your driving time. Now, each company would need to approve the use of yard move, just like personal conveyance, but the company must define what a yard move is and when you can do it. So according to the FMCSA, there's no outline of exactly the definition of a yard move. Is it a yard? Is it a parking lot? Is it whatever it is? There's no definition. The company needs to define that.
Yeah. So basically, what I would say, the best way to go about this is when you guys are updating your company policy, because everybody needs to have a company policy in place. And once you're updating your company policy with your ELDs right now, what you need to do is you basically need to outline and break it down what is allowed under your company policy in yard mode and personal conveyance mode. That way, when you get pulled over, just like Donna was talking about personal conveyance, if it's in your company policy, you'll be it'll be more easier to get by. If it's not, then you're gonna have to fight and prove your side of the story and all that.
Right. So have it documented.
Yep.
So here's some examples of when to use the yard move. And remember, they have to have the annotations, which is the notes attached to each event. And I'm going to show an example of that as well. So you can use a yard move, or some examples of what a company could say you could use it for is move to a different parking spot in a lot, get closer to a dock in order to pick up a load, or drive around to the back of a customer's building.
Yeah, so basically if you're on one dock and you have to move to another dock, or if you're let's say parked at let's say Walmart or somewhere waiting to go in and drop the load, I would probably consider that as a yard move if you cross the street and you're just going backing up to the dock.
Mm-hmm. So driving in yard move mode in Ezlogz is going to be kind of the same way. You're going to show that you're on duty, and there's the enable yard mode, and it's that blue check mark selected. And notice that under notes, I've typed in moving the truck around back. So that's,
make sure you leave your notes.
Absolutely. Okay, unassigned driving or unidentified driving. So according to FMCSA, all unassigned driving records must be annotated or reassigned to a driver. So if there's an unassigned driving, it's going to pop up when the driver logs in. When you get in the truck and you log in, it's going to pop up if there's any unidentified driving. So here's an example to the right of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different unidentified driving events. If any of these belong to me, I will select it and I'll select it, and the driving event will become assigned to me. When they're not assigned to me, they're not my drives, then the safety or the admin would need to go in. So whoever's in charge of, auditing the logs, they'll need to review it and they'll need to make the annotations necessary.
Basically, they can assign it to the other driver, but the other driver should still accept it on their end, right?
Right. They can assign it to a different driver, or they can be unassigned completely with notes if it was something like the truck was actually being towed and there was no driver, or they have to
or mechanic.
Or a mechanic. They could drop off the truck at the mechanic and the mechanic moved it into to be looked at. That's
or test drive, whatever. As long as it's all noted, you'll be fine.
Yep. So that's pretty much that one. Okay, adverse driving conditions. This is one that we're looking to have some updates to it eventually, right? We talked about that before.
Basically, it's in the proposed change for the hour of services that is supposed to be implemented in mid-2020.
Okay. Yeah. So so right now it's going to give you 2 extra hours, and we'll explain what this means. But they've proposed to extend that, which is, I believe, not
3 hours, right?
Okay. I think so. But right now it's the 2 extra hours. So that means if you have driving conditions that you did not know about when you started, so snow, fog, a crash, that when you started driving, your navigation did not show this, and this puts you behind, you have 2 extra hours of driving time. So you have to notate your log when using that type of exemption, and you have to provide a lot of detail when using this. And it also applies to, it only applies to driving time.
Another thing I would kind of bring up to you guys is another cool feature that Ezlogz has. When you're using our maps, navigation point of interest, and you're using our route map, truck route map, and you're in traffic or you're stuck somewhere, you can click on the map and then pinpoint that location and then turn on your adverse driving, and that note, that location will go automatically into that note, mile points such and such, and then what happened, your traffic accident or whatever, and we have that map. We can show if it's the accident or snowstorm. You'll get notifications, and this is actually a cool thing that you can just, instead of wasting your time or going back and thinking what happened, you can pinpoint it right away into notes, and you're good to go.
That's awesome. What a good feature that is. Okay, let's talk about some questions that have been coming up or that I've been hearing, and then I'll go over the answer to that. So the first one, how many miles can I drive off-duty in personal conveyance mode? Okay, so there currently is no guideline that specifies how many miles you can drive. In Canada, they do have a specification, but in the US, there's no guideline at the moment. Just, remember that the more miles you drive, the more questions you are likely to get from a DOT officer. So make sure your intent is that you're using the personal conveyance mode in the right way. It doesn't.
You're not abusing it, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to be able to show that, and it's going to be up to the officer to decide if that is your intent or not.
And once again, if you have all your paperwork in order, all your notes, and the officer pulls you over and he sees that, hey, this guy's actually doing it, even if you're going home or what, you're doing something, you have everything noted and you're all prepared, I mean, I'm 90% sure they're going to cut you some slack and say, okay, move on in, all right?
Absolutely. Okay, another one I heard was, can I cross a state line in personal conveyance mode? And again, there's no guideline that states you cannot cross a state line. So you're good.
This is, yeah, once again, this is something that you guys need to add to your company policy. If you allow or you don't allow, because that's something once you're going to get audited, that's something they're going to look at.
Yes, perfect. Okay, question. I do not see personal conveyance mode as an option. How do I enable it? So if you go into your app and you don't see that the way we showed you earlier, then you need to reach out to your safety and verify that you're driving in ELD mode and that they have set your permission to allow special driving modes like personal conveyance and yard moves.
Yep.
The other one I heard was I started driving and then the load was canceled. Can I delete that trip? And the answer to that one is no. Once there's movement, once the truck is driving, you can only add an annotation. You cannot delete it or cancel it. Your 14-hour clock has started at that point.
Yep, and you used some of your driving time already.
Yep.
As well. Another thing that I wanted to, before we move forward, another thing that we didn't show you guys is how to activate adverse driving on Ezlogz. It's very simple. Once you're in movement and you have that timer clock ticking, on the right side, I believe there's a little settings icon. Once you click on that icon, you'll see adverse driving. Click on adverse driving and it's activated. It's very simple and very easy.
That's awesome. All right, so this one, this is questions directly from the FMCSA website. We grabbed a couple, but that web address right there at the top will show you to the, it'll take you to the full page and you can see a lot more questions and answers. So question one that I chose is, if a driver invokes the exception for adverse driving conditions, does a supervisor need to sign the driver's record of duty status when he or she arrives at the destination? And the answer is no. You can just do like CJ said and go right into your app and click on the adverse driving and you're fine. Question, may a driver use the adverse driving conditions if he or she has accumulated drive time on duty, not driving, time, and that would put the driver over 15 hours or over 70 hours in 8 consecutive days? So the answer to that one is no. The adverse driving condition exception applies only to the 10-hour rule. And then the last one, are there allowances made and the FMC safety regulations for delays caused by loading and unloading? And no. Although regulations do make some allowances for unforeseen contingencies, and there's some examples there, loading and unloading delays are not covered by those sections. Okay, CJ.
I think that's about it. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you guys have any questions or any remarks or anything you want to basically bring out or ask us, you're more welcome to comment underneath on YouTube or Facebook, where you're gonna see the video. And yeah, that's about it.
And we'll provide answers to those questions.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.